Good morning. Let's take a look at Gary Trudeau. Gary Trudeau in Doonesbury, hitting 50 years old. That's hard to believe, but true.
I have to tell you, sometimes with everything going on, it takes comedians and comics and the funny people in our society to jolt us with some truth. There was this recent New Yorker cover that highlights the gap between the tidy Zoom lives we sometimes present, talking on the screen, to the reality of these stressful and messy real lives outside of that camera screen. And when you think about this, whether it's cartoons that capture the way we live now or political cartoons that so many of us who follow politics rely on for truth, there really may be no more long-lived source for political comedy and insight in the United States than the long-running comic strip Doonesbury. Did you know it's now in its 50th year, satirizing the politicians who control parts of our lives, holding the powerful to account with sometimes biting humor? Gary Trudeau becoming the first comic strip artist to ever win a Pulitzer. Did you know that? And his short film, a Doonesbury special, has won prizes at the Cannes Film Festival. It even netted an Oscar nomination. Trudeau first came to many people's attention with his scathing critiques in the Nixon era, but he has kept on going all the way through the recent Trump era, and he's still going strong today. Why am I talking about Gary Trudeau? Well, the good news is I'm talking about him because he's our special guest tonight. Gary Trudeau is here. His new anthology, which we have here, is Doonesbury at 50, the complete digital Doonesbury. What a beautiful thing. And also with us, a friend of the show and someone who knows Gary as well, David Korn, Washington Bureau Chief for Mother Jones, a George Polk Award winner in his own right, and the author of 3 New York Times bestsellers. What I'm saying is both of you guys have done some good work. Thanks for being here. How you guys doing?
Just great. Happy to be back.
I'm really happy to have you back, Gary. I will say in full disclosure, there are stressful parts of this job and there's some fun parts, and getting to meet you in the context of interviews is cool because I was a kid and a poli-sci major reading your cartoons. What are you reflecting on? What are your insights having this great 50-year run?
When you work in syndication, it's just getting through the week. It's like a lot of jobs. I don't set the bar too high. I have to set it at good enough because deadline's a deadline. I would like steady excellence. That would be purely aspirational for me. But I seem to be temperamentally suited to do my work in a short period of time and move on.
I wanted to ask you about taking that into the Biden era because everyone understands that it may be a good thing for the nation when there's a little less grist for cartoonists and satirists and SNL coming out of the White House. SNL itself has struggled at times to find even a great way to mock Biden. Take a look at just some of the people they've tried out.
Notice anything different about me? Grandpa Joe got the glow up. You know, I was Irish man. Younger? Yep. Taller? Sure. Better?
It's a spooky time filled with demons and darkness. Also, it's Halloween. For some Trump voters, it's the only day they'll wear a mask.
It's a problem for all of us comedy professionals. And, after 5 years of caricaturing this the Baroque presence of Donald Trump, this drawing Joe Biden is some of the letdown. I've checked out some of what my colleagues and the editorial cartoonists have been doing, and I'm sad to report that most of them just look like drawings of an old white guy, and that they know because they're putting labels on him. They're labeling him Biden. You never had to do that with Trump. I'm spoiled by Trump. It was such fun drawing it, but I also have, a long history of simply not drawing the president, of drawing the White House and then having the voices emanate from it. And I may have to go back to that.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our...
That was pleasant to see this morning. I hope everyone is doing well. Sharing with you an interview with Gary Trudeau, a legend. I would say a legend. Hope everyone's doing well this morning. Me, I was up at 2 o'clock this morning. Was I up at 2? No, I was up at 12:20 this morning, and then I went back to sleep around 20 past 2. Love my sleep patterns, everyone. I just love my sleep patterns. Hey, greetings from Malmo. I'm not really sure how to do that umlaut, Phil Lister, at the end of Mo. So I'm just going to just say Malmo. That's right. Hey, Simply Secular Dave from the West Coast. Willie Ignorant from Glasgow. Hope you're doing well. Scott Duke, glad to see you. MC Fractal. MC, you are a moderator here on this channel, so you can actually drop down a link to your own site if you want to, so you can share, your wonderful artwork with people if you choose to. Derek Cruz, Scott Duke, Buzzin, Brainbug. Jesse Beer, I'm glad to see you. Tobin. Glad to see everyone's here. JJ Delangle. Mighty Mouse. Mute my mic. Yep, I can talk about my incompetencies there about I'll try to slurp less. How's that? I'll try to slurp less. Imaginary God and Lee. Hope you're all doing well this morning. So I have to tell you, I was on here's a joke. Oh, all right. I'm just going to read the joke. I haven't even. Phil Lister, here's a joke. French and British warships are facing off each other around the island of Jersey. Oh, my fictitious God, Phil Lister. I saw that story. It's all about breakfast. It's all about fishing. And if you want to know whether or not geography is destiny in terms of countries, maybe it is. The French and and let's face it, it's the English. The rest of the UK are just being dragged into this by the English. That's probably why the union's not going to survive in 50 years, at least the way it is now. But yeah, there's a fishing crisis around Jersey, which is Jersey is in the English Channel. It's one of the Channel Islands, right, Phil Lister? Oh man, yeah, it's tragedy bordering on comedy, or maybe it's comedy bordering on tragedy. I don't know what it is. But thank you for mentioning that. It wasn't on my list of things to talk about, and I'm glad that you did mention that. I was doing a tequila tasting last night via Zoom with Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston, from Breaking Bad. They have their own brand of mezcal. And I learned that all tequila is mezcal, but not all mezcal is tequila. I don't really understand that. My girlfriend is far more into this scene than I am. But I will say the Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston, I think it's Dos Palmos. I don't know what the name of the brand is, but it actually doesn't suck. In terms of tequila, I drink it and it just burns all the way down, but their mezcal actually doesn't suck. There's a lot of smoke in it, and it doesn't burn. Correct. Hey, Andy got some geography right about Jersey being in the Channel Islands. Woohoo! I should go on Jeopardy someday. I would go on Jeopardy. I tried the test once, to be honest with you all. But just because you do well on the test, if I did well on the test, doesn't mean they're going to call you. So yeah, so I was on this virtual tequila tasting last night. And I said to myself, wow, my show looks so much better than theirs. Aaron Paul was all choppy. The host that they had for the tequila tasting could have used some work on the camera. Could have used some experience. He says he does these tequila tastings all the time. I don't know, man. You just see all these shows virtually now via Zoom or via StreamYard. OBS, and you say to yourself, and they're supposed to be professional shows too. They're supposed to be professional shows, and they just suck. And the quality isn't very good. Of course, the quality of this show is always exemplar, except when I don't mute my microphone. All right. So, what stories are we doing today? Can you taste tequila? Mezcal. This particular brand of mezcal. I could actually taste it. Right, the other tequila, the tequila I was tasting, it all tasted like fire going down. Blazing, glad to see that you're here, Blazing. Stories we're covering today. of course, I just shared a video about Gary Trudeau, creator of Doonesbury. He's been doing this comic strip for 50 years. Started off, I believe, when he was in Yale as an undergraduate. We're going to talk about breakthroughs for COVID. We're going to talk about the birth rate going lower here in the States, mirroring a trend around the world. We've talked about this before, right? COVID-19 has just accelerated this, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about the birth rate later on. Josh Duggar, he's out on bail, and I can't effing believe this guy's out on bail. And the judge is like wagging his fingers. It's like, look, you can't be doing anything more. You can't do perpy things, but I'm going to let you, even though we know that you're a big perp, but you're out on bail. Be good. And a sixth grader argues, or a Fox News host argues with a sixth grader. I'm not making it up. It's a real story. Yeah, those are just some of the stories. All the links are in the description, everyone, if you want to check out any of these stories. And thank you, Robert X, for once again reminding me, because I'm horrible at this. So please liking and subscribing and all that other happy stuff, right? You're right about that, Phil Lister. That tequila, when it's straight, and then my girlfriend's like, Andy, you're taking too much tequila. You're sipping too much of it. And it's like, what? I'm not supposed to taste tequila like I drink a Guinness? Yeah. Hey, there's MC Fractal's art. Oh, no, there it is right there. Does good work, MC Fractal. He does good work. Well, Jesse Bear, when I talk about the story about Josh Duggar, there are actually aspects of it that I do find stomach churning. And so, yeah, it is disturbing and disgusting. Hey, Sean, glad to see that you're here, sir. All right, so what's the first story? You know, what are we doing first? Oh, we're doing memes. Let's do some memes. Put some more smiles on our faces. We are now selling homemade Trump toys for that special lady in your life, in parentheses, all in caps, not for men. That's I don't know. I think that was in Dante's, purgatory there, right? And maybe hell, like an inner ring of hell, right? Disturbing. Something a little bit lighter. It's just a pun, Christian Bale. And it's a bad pun, to tell you the truth, but it does nicely. It's a nice segue into our last meme before we go into the stories this morning. Talking to a Christian. Hey, why do you always wear that mask? Take off the Christian mask, and what do you get? Sexist, racist, homophobe, transphobe. And maybe you should keep that on, Christian. Actually, you should just get rid of the mask as well as what's underneath the mask, I think, right? You should just you got to just turn that around. And of course, not all Christians are sexist, racist, homophobe, transphobes. I think, my own personal opinion, if you're going to be a bad Christian, like you don't follow what the Bible actually says, then you probably won't be a homophobe, transphobe. If you don't take your faith seriously, then you can be a liberal. You can be a progressive, sure. Andy's starting trouble already this morning. Very disturbing. Very disturbing. Mighty Mouse. Oh, yes. Well, that's right, Brainbug. I do have a blog. Today, because this morning has been rough on me because of my poor sleep. So I just posted a discussion I had on the late night show with Stax Rush, and we talked about his book, Disproving God. It was a nice hour-long conversation I had with Stax last Sunday, and that's on the blog this morning. But I have a lot of funny stuff, too. A lot of funny stuff. Hey, B, how you doing? I think I'm going to be jumping on B's open room on Friday. My girlfriend's gone. Yeah, I'm being left home alone for a couple of days, believe it or not. And so I'm going to be probably doing a lot more streaming and a lot more writing. I have to write a short script for a video that I'm filming with a buddy of mine. I have a lot of stuff to do, everyone. But I'll probably be jumping on B's stream. I'm doing Atheist Drinking Out Loud too this Saturday at 5 p.m. with Seamus from Free Thought Prophet and the Neil 604 Atheist, and our mystery guest. It's such a mystery. I don't even know who the guest is. That's Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So it should be pretty fun. Sammy, Jenkins, glad to see that you are here. Party at Andy's house. Well, I have to tell you, Sean, she did say, Andy, when I come back to the house on Monday, I don't want the house to be trashed. It's like, how old am I? Am I barely, I wash my hands after using the bathroom. I'm not like 21 years old anymore. I clean up after myself after a couple of days. I pick things up sometimes. Oh, the horror. Exactly. Andy Hall, Home Alone. Nothing but chaos here. All right. So we did memes. We talked about Doonesbury turning 50 years old. We saw that interview with Gary Trudeau. I don't know why that third guy was there, to tell you the truth. There should have just been Gary Trudeau and the moderator and the host just talking. All right. First story. Let's do first story. Breakthroughs. What if Kate? So I've been working. I've been doing home healthcare, which means I go into people's homes and I help them out with their daily activities, hang out with them, do some, I help them basically. I go into people's homes and help them. Now, sometimes those homes are actually apartments in large buildings. I have to take these wee little elevators and I get into very confined spaces, right? Where there could be COVID, right? I was in the, just like a lot of us, even though we're fully vaccinated, there's still at least a fear in my mind that possibly I'll get a breakthrough COVID infection. And of course, a breakthrough is when, that 0.001% of the population who are fully vaccinated, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but yeah, you can still get COVID even if you've been fully vaccinated. But what does that infection look like? And that's our first real, legitimate news story this morning. Links in the description below. What's it like to get COVID-19 after a vaccine? According to people who've had the breakthrough infections. Once again, this is condensed synopses of stories, really, with my own funny commentary. The full stories are in the description, the links. Yeah, so I've been thinking about breakthrough infections quite a bit lately. About 45% of breakthrough infections occurred in people age 60 and older. That includes cases in nursing homes where residents and staff were among the first Americans to get vaccinated. Elderly people with pre-existing conditions could be prone to more severe illness, and transmission is more likely to occur in congregate living settings. Paul Offit, director of the Vaccine Education Center at the Children's Hospital in Philly, told Insider that even with a smattering of breakthrough infections taken into account, the vaccines have met the goal of protecting most people from severe illness. And that's the thing. Even if you do even if you do get a breakthrough infection of COVID-19, it's more than likely your symptoms will not be as bad than if you didn't get the vaccine at all. COVID-19 vaccines have been extremely successful in preventing serious illness that could lead to hospitalizations and death, but no existing vaccine is 100% effective at preventing infection, Dr. Lisa V. Adams, an associate dean for global health at Dartmouth College, told Insider. We know there are and will be some breakthrough infections in individuals who are vaccinated, at least until we get to the point where there is very little virus circulating, Adams said. The good news is that their illness should be very mild. Fingers crossed for a very mild illness, because I'm out and about a lot. So, will I get infected? I don't know. I'm hoping for very mild in case I do get it. People get COVID-19 despite being fully vaccinated typically have much less virus in their systems, meaning they could be less contagious to others, Israeli studies have found. However, the articles have yet to be peer-reviewed, but the findings are promising. More studies from Israel have also shown that the Pfizer vaccine may be 94% effective at preventing asymptomatic infections, which reduces the risk of someone unknowingly transmitting the virus. And that's important. If I was going to have COVID, I would at least want to have symptoms to know that I have COVID, or at least to get tested and to keep others safe from my infected mess of a body. Check out the chat. I go into people's homes as well. Haven't been caught yet. That's good. That's good. I am lucky to live in a highly liberal area, and most people are getting vaccinated, or a lot of people are getting vaccinated. So that's, yeah. If you live in an apartment where you can hear your neighbor's TV, you live in togethernment. Yeah, togethernment at all. All right. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to be slightly awkward and share with you a link from the New York Times. And what this link does, it's a calculator. It will show you whether or not you're living in a bubble, in a liberal bubble or a conservative bubble. And I'm going to try to pull this up now. I'm like ripping up the script here, everyone. I am ripping up this freaking script. And I was going to say this for the after party, after show, but you might want to play this along. You know, what you do is you get to put in your address. You get to put in your address, and then you get to see whether or not, you know, how many of your neighbors are liberal, how many of your neighbors are conservative. I know this will work in the States. I don't think it'll work overseas. I have to tell you, I took this yesterday, and it turns out that only 8% of my neighbors in my immediate community are Republican. That makes me feel pretty good. I'm dropping that in the link right in the chat, right? Oh, see, now that's not working, Andy Hall. That's not working. Let me see what I can do here. We're going to cut that. Yes, gripping entertainment, everyone. That's what this is. So there it is. If you go on to that New York Times link I just dropped in the chat, you will see exactly how liberal or conservative or independent in terms of, party affiliation the community is around you in your chat. Interesting, Somerville, Massachusetts, where I live, 8% are conservative, are Republicans. 92% are Democrats. Not unhappy with that. In fact, it's interesting. The last place that I lived, which is Brockton, Massachusetts, it was actually 7% conservative and 93% Democrat. Unfortunately, I'm just completely going on this tangent. Like I said, ripping up the script. The city where I grew up in is a conservative city, politically speaking, in terms of leadership, just because white people vote a lot more than brown and black-skinned people for a variety of different reasons. But it's an interesting link. If you want to check it out, please do. And I'll throw that link in again for the after party, after show too, which starts at 10 o'clock. Blazing. Does it work for Denmark, or does it just go commie alarm, commie alarm? Oh yeah, extremely leftist country indeed. All those windmills. All right. Sean goes, I'm in a pretty conservative and religious area. I love wearing my atheist t-shirts here. Even if, and I'll say this, even if you're in a highly blue Democrat area, then I would humbly suggest wearing some atheist swag, because that way we get to normalize it within the Democratic community, right? Within the Democratic Party, within the liberal community. All right, so what's the next story? Wow, 23 minutes into the show already. I'm going to do the halftime show, everyone. I'm just going to do the halftime show. Oh no, brain bug. Even worse, 74% Republicans. Well, you live in a pretty conservative area, brain bug. You live in a pretty conservative area. Like I said, George Soros should be sending checks to all of you liberals who are living in red areas, right? There should be some kind of universal basic income for atheists who live in highly religious areas. All right, so let's do halftime show. Let's do something funny before we start talking about, oh Christ, all the other stories we have to cover today.
You sum up the day.
Yeah, honestly, just felt like we got behind early. After the milk spill and the marker on the wall, we just felt like we were playing catch up the rest of the day.
Right before you went to the store, you called a timeout. Was there an attitude change after that?
Yeah, it felt like we were losing our heads there for a minute, so we wanted to just calm things down and get back to the basics.
Did you ever find your keys?
No idea where they are.
You gave them a snack half hour before dinner. Was that planned?
No, I lost track of time. wasn't thinking. And so, 3 bites at dinner, that's on me.
It didn't look like you had many answers to the double team.
Is it a question?
So if you're a dad, if you've ever had, or a mom, then there are just days that you have with your kids that you're just behind. You're behind the 8 ball, you're behind the sippy cup, you're just behind schedule. And when I saw that video, I thought, that man's speaking truth right there. He is speaking truth. Halftime show. Oh, something from nothing. You're in an 84% Republican area. I am so sorry to hear that. My heart goes out to you. All right. So what's the I'm gonna jump over a couple of stories. I was gonna wait to do Josh Duggar, but time's burning. So let's talk about George. Yes, we did do memes today, Dr. Mordecai, earlier in the show. Now this is interesting. Phyllis says, I live in a highly right-wing part of Sweden, up to 14% conservative. Very interesting. You could fill your sippy cup with whiskey. I wouldn't suggest that for young children, but you could do your own, sure. All right. So let's talk about this guy. Josh Duggar, 19 kids and counting, reality star, quiverful movement, poster child. You might remind him from the accusations of him fondling his sisters years ago. And what's he doing now? Oh, and this, I should just tell you right now, this is disturbing. This is going to be about child abuse, child pornography. Yes, I know that the video is already demonetized for talking about that. But this is an important story. This guy's going out on bail. I cannot effing believe it. That this dude, known perp for a very long period of time, for years, and the judge is like, I'm going to let you out, but make sure you don't touch kids. I wish I was making this up, but I'm not. Link in the description, everyone. Josh Duggar granted bail, must remain apart from his family in worst of the worst child porn case. Worst of the worst. Josh Duggar will be released from jail as he awaits trial in his felony child pornography case. The scandal-plagued former 19s and kids counting star 33 faced Judge Christy Comstock in U.S. District Court for the Western District of Arkansas on Wednesday for a detention hearing. The father of 6, and he has one in the way, by the way. He has one on the way, too, so soon to be father of 7, from what I understand. The father of 6, appearing from the Washington County Detention Center and wearing his gray striped jail-issued jumpsuit, was arrested on April 29th on charges of receiving and possessing material depicting the sexual abuse of children and faces up to 20 years in prison for each. He pleaded not guilty. Of course he pleaded not guilty. Guys like him, guys like this, like him, he just, oh my God, what a creep. He oozes creep. He just oozes Christian creep, right? Kind of self-possessed, sure of himself. It's like, yeah, I'm a perp, but Jesus loves me, this I know. While the judge granted Duggar's release effective Thursday, she said, I'm just going to remind you how serious these charges are. She noted the evidence against him, and that was presented, and it was significant. She said the nature of the crime concerns the court. She said his past conduct, molesting 5 young girls, including some of his sisters, when he was a minor teen in 2000 and 2003, were also of concern. We know that you've been molesting kids for a long time, that you're obviously, it's some kind of obsessive compulsive thing for you, but we're still going to let you out into the community. Comstock also made the point that the ages of, this is the bad part. This is, we're getting into the maelstrom here. Comstock also made the point that the ages of some of the children in the pornography are close to ages of your children. He shares 6 children, ages 11 and under, with pregnant wife Anna, as well as his younger siblings. However, while she said it was a very close call When it came to her decision, she was letting him out with many conditions. This is the finger waving part, by the way. These conditions: Josh will be in home confinement, but not in his own home, nor in a guest house on the property of his parents, Michelle and Bob Duggar. Oh my God, I'm going to blow a freaking blood vessel with this. Instead, he'll be staying home with friends of his parents, a pastor and his wife. If this isn't Christian privilege right here. Okay, so you're a perp. We know you're a perp. You've been molesting kids for years. You have child pornography on your computer, but we're going to let you out. But, it's going to be in the home of a pastor and a wife because God's the answer. Christ. There will be electronic monitoring. He's restricted to the residence at all times except work, church, doctor's appointments, meetings with his lawyer, and court appearances, and he must not possess or view pornography of any kind. He is not to use any internet-capable device. The judge did decide he can have unlimited visitation with his children as long as Anna is present at the time. Okay, so Anna, who knows who this guy is? Is she really fit to defend her kids against this guy? Does she have the judgment to really protect her kids against him? I don't think so. I don't think those kids are safe. Breathe, Andy. Just freaking breathe. Okay, Josh, who lives in Springdale, Arkansas, is not to see any other minor children, including siblings, nieces, and nephews. As of now, his jury trial is scheduled to begin on July 6th with pretrial conference on July 1st. And the worst part of it here. Prosecutors claim the illegal images of 18 months. I just blanked out there. Ranging from the age of 12 and 18 months. It is a disturbing story. I'm just going to see what the chat has to say. Well, you're right about that. That's just that's exactly Jesse Bear, right? I know you've been following the story, Jesse. I see you on Instagram. Comment, you're seeing things. Yeah. How is he out? Well, I would say it's Christian privilege right there. I would say it's Christian privilege because he's going to be in a house of a pastor and a wife as if they will be able to restrain his behavior. And the concept that his wife, who's obviously in the cult with him, who has no ability of restraining this man's behavior, that she is going to somehow be able to protect the kids from this monster. Speechless. Oh yes, Christians will say he's forgiven because he uttered a few words sorry to Jesus. It does. It's this is sickening. Of all the crazy crap we cover here on this channel, I would say this is probably one of it's crazy. It just disgusts me. He laughed at the freaking judge. The things he can get away with this. Yeah. Let's see, checking out the rest of the chat. Well, this is true, Sammy. Let's hope the pastor doesn't host a youth group. Indeed. Jesse Bear says, laughing. I've been following this family since it came out in 2015 about him and his sisters. I've been waiting justice. Monsters like this don't change. Yeah, well, they definitely don't change if they don't get caught and if they don't see anything wrong with their behavior. Once again, religion, as noted in the chat, if you feel that you can get away with anything you want to get away with and then just ask for forgiveness afterwards, so that just incentivizes bad behavior, right? It just incentivizes bad behavior. Well, you're right, Iron Charioteer. If he gets to prison, it does not look good for him. To tell you the truth, I wouldn't be surprised if he meets an ugly end by his own hand or by someone else's hand, in the not so distant future. Isn't Christianity grand? You can abuse kids and just tell Jesus sorry. Yeah. What's up, Dr. Mordecai? Glad to see that you're here. Yeah, well, it toddlers, right, Jesse Beer, toddlers. I did, like I said, I'm going to break a fucking blood vessel talking about Josh Duggar. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, Mighty Mouse. I wonder if the pastor gets paid for fostering him. What pastor in his right mind would want to be, keeping an eye on Josh Duggar to begin with? I would want nothing to do with that guy. What would happen in prison is my only thinking why he got to jail. Okay, well, that's an interesting aspect of it. Jesse Bear says, what would happen in prison is my only thinking why he got bail to save money from keeping him in special protective custody. Yeah, well, there's always enough money to go around, ultimately. Less tax breaks for the rich. There's always money to go around. It's just that, I don't know, man. Like I said, my brain just freezes when I start thinking about the Duggars. Suzanne Titkemeyer, who's done a lot of work on the Quiverful movement and on the Duggars. She's been on my channel a couple of times. If you want to see, we've talked about, the Quiverful movement in which, you're supposed to have as many kids as possible. It's very patriarchal, fundamentalist Christianity stuff. There's some interesting conversations I've had with her in the past in old episodes, old videos of mine. All right, so I need to cleanse this. I need to cleanse this out of my mind. I think I'm going to do another video. So I can calm the F down and clean out my brain before we go to another news story. Is that okay with everyone? I think that's okay, right? Take a fucking break. All right, that makes me feel a little better. Kind of gets myself resituated here as against thinking about the Duggars, right? I hope that makes you feel better, chat and observers and lurkers. Yeah, actually, that's one of my t-shirts that you can buy, that you can grab in my store. Link to the store is in the description, of course. Matt Powell tried to use a Fox News article to refute me because he is angry at science, shakes fist at Matt Powell. That's what I'll do. I get it, Andy. I was in tears last night reading the news. I know, as a human being and being a parent. Yeah. I don't know how investigators do it. I don't know how they do it either, to tell you the truth, Jesse Beer. I mean, it's funny about this, right? When I go for work, because I've worked with exceptionally, well, with violent people, I'll say that, right? So when I go for a job interview, I state my preferences. It's like I would rather deal or work with people, interact with people who are actually agitated and aggressive than dealing with poo or bodily fluids. Some of us just have, like, you just feel like, it's just easier for me personally to de-escalate people and to connect with people and help them kind of move through aggressive and agitated episodes than dealing with bodily fluids, you know? And I imagine that there are just some people who it's easier to carry that burden because it is a burden. People who have to be investigators for the state, who are like looking into child abuse. I mean, you know, they carry a burden. They do. They carry a burden, and they don't get paid a lot either. They don't get paid a lot. Phil Lister says there were a series of cult sex abuse cases during the 70s in Sweden. I did not hear about that. It helped destroy a number of weird cult church. One was called Children of God. Yeah. There isn't enough. Well, you know, it's interesting, Dr. Mordecai, that you would say that. Dr. Mordecai says there isn't enough health insurance to help the Christian mind. Yes, I would say overall, I still attest. I still believe that the most important thing that we can do as a society to get rid of fundamentalist Christianity as a political force, as a societal force, is to give everyone free health care. Universal health care makes people feel safe, makes people feel secure. The number one reason why people go into bankruptcy here in the United States of America is because of medical bills. An incredibly high percentage of GoFundMe campaigns is to just pay off medical bills. Universal healthcare makes people less fearful. It makes people less stupid, and it will make people less religious. I'll say that. Yes, Andy bangs on the drum for universal healthcare. Yep, again, because it has to be said over and over again. The ham went bad, right, Dr. Mordecai? Yeah, the ham went bad. All right. Well, this is it. Right, Robert X, want to get out of jail free card, follow a religion, and claim that you're persecuted. You know, it isn't just, you know, I don't think if, you know, you could say one thing about the Satanic Temple, right? Because because my co-host, Jack Maturko, on Sunday nights, he's, and he was my co-host on the Naked Data podcast for a number of years, and he's a member of the Satanic Temple. I would think that the temple would turn their backs on someone who was who was a repeated sex abuser. But that's just, you know, I can't speak for Lucian Greaves or for the temple. I'm sorry to hear that, Dr. Mordecai. Heavy burdens, brother. Heavy burdens. You're just the opposite, Sammy. Sammy Jenkins. See, so this is an example. Sammy would rather not deal with aggressive or agitated people, but, you know, deal with the fluid stuff. Yeah. We all have weirds. You know, we can carry burdens differently, right? The same burden. They're still heavy burdens, but we can still deal with them. Different types of burdens in different ways. Well, you know, Mighty Mouse says, I grew up in Canada and now live in Denmark. I can't imagine the horror of medical bills. I'm working on a comedy bit about how all your money is basically cancer money. All the money you have saved up is cancer money. I'm trying to spin that in a clever way, in a funny way. All right. John Hudson, glad to see that you're here. Should I start talking about the news again? I think I should start talking about the news, because once you start talking about Josh Duggar, it's easy in this particular story, it's easy to get derailed. That's what this is. So let's talk about the sixth grader who got, and this is at least a little lighter, about the Fox News host who decided to riff on a sixth grader. And is there video of this? Sure, there's video of this. I'll share this with you. A link in the description, of course, from the HuffPost. Sixth grader tells Fox News, Brian Kilmeade, is that how you pronounce his name? I guess so, that Biden is doing a better job than Trump. That's like telling people water is wet and rocks are hard. The fact that Biden is doing better than Trump. Let's take a look at the story. Fox News, Brian Kilmeade received an unexpected answer on the air Wednesday morning when a young student called out ex-President Donald Trump's catastrophic handling of the coronavirus pandemic. I just want to say, if I knew my kid was going to go on Fox News and it was going to be a live mic, there would be conversing between me and my child about, you know, doing because what you don't want to do is to have your kid be complicit. A sixth grader, you don't want your sixth grader to be complicit in Fox News propaganda. Oh yeah, I would let my sixth grader be on Fox News, and they would cry in their oatmeal if my kids were ever on freaking Fox News. Fox News host Kilmeade, while talking with 3 students about their experiences with virtual learning, asked Philadelphia 6th grader Mason Cedar, I'm going to pronounce it Cedar, what he misses most about not being in school. I miss most obviously, now this is funny how the kid says it. You can tell he's a well-spoken 6th grader. I miss most obviously seeing my friends and all the after-school activities that I have done. And I think that we're very, very close getting back to school, Cedar responded, having hailed his teachers for doing a great job in challenging circumstances. Sure enough, a lot of these teachers aren't vaccinated. They're just in there doing their jobs. And I think the way our new president is handling things is very good way, and we should not have gone to this if it were still the last president, Cedar said. And then Kilmeade fired back with a defense of Trump, whose botched and negligent response to the pandemic cost him the 2020 election. Really? Asked the Fox News personality. That's hard to believe because the last president was saying, I want every kid back in school. Yeah. All right, so let's check the video of this.
How close are you to getting back in the room? What do you miss most about not being in school?
I miss most, obviously, seeing my friends and all the after-school activities that I've done. And I think that we're very, very close getting back to school. And I think that the way that our new president is handling things is a very good way. And we would not have gone to this if it were still the last president.
Really? That's hard to believe because the last president was saying, I want every kid back in school.
So the little girl, the girl in the bottom left, she's like nodding her head in agreement, like, yeah, obviously Donald J. Trump is who helped us get into this. She was just nodding in agreement with the kid. And Kilmeade's like, oh no, I have to strike back hard because otherwise I'm going to lose my job. Oh, let's see. All right, just checking out the chat here, everyone. Children of God now called the family. Yeah, that's not good. Well, Mighty Mouse, I think you are thinking of capitalism as neo-feudalism. I think that's spot on. I think that's spot on, especially when you consider how the system here in the States makes you basically in debt from the day that you're born until the day that you're dead, for all intents and purposes, right? Between the college loans, the mortgage, the credit cards, the car loan. When I was growing up, a long car loan would be maybe 5 years. And now it's a car loan can be much further than that. And people are refinancing car loans, and people are it's ridiculous about the nature of debt in late stage capitalism, American style capitalism, and how many characteristics it has with feudalism. Brain bug goes, I'd be writing a script for my kid. Yeah. Well, I would say to my kid, and I've always, my kids are much nicer than I am. I don't know how that happened. And I'm like, you can always just curse if you feel like the need to. And, my kids have my oldest one has a pretty clean mouth. My youngest one, she has entered her comedian stage of development. She's just turned 16, and she has discovered that she can weaponize the language, and now is much more assertive in weaponizing the language. But she does know how to turn it on and turn it off. Jesse says, my oldest has schooled adults about climate versus weather when they were 7. The adult was a rage and told me to tell him to stop. And I'm like, why? The child is not wrong. You are. Yeah, exactly, Jesse Bear. Good job. My kids being super nice too. Like, no, you're mistaken. And that's not true. So correct. Yeah, correct scientifically. Good job. Well, brain bug, libertarianism. I've said this before. Big L libertarian. No, I was a big L libertarian myself. I went to a national convention, hung out with big L libertarians, met the presidential candidate. I forget his name though. It was in the early 90s, mid 90s. And big L libertarianism, it's logic unmoored with data points. It's logic unmoored to reality. That's what it is. It's like you make the logical argument, and what is it? It might be internally coherent, but it has nothing to do with the real world. Like, it doesn't work. Big L libertarianism. And the only thing it does is really feed into conservatism, ties into the conservative Republican Party, helps them out. Yeah, it's completely void of reality. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. What society has been big L libertarian? What large scale society has? Yeah. All right. So what are we doing here? It's 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes. All right. I'm not covering all the stories today, everyone. That Josh Duggar thing took a lot out of me, and we took a lot of time on this. So what are we doing? We're doing the after party after show, where it's an open room. You can come on. You can come on. We can talk about whatever. The link to the backstage is in the description. The link, the YouTube link to the show, in case you just want to watch and engage in the chat, is also in the description, everyone. Oh yeah, John Hudson. I like that. You're not a capitalist, more like an exploited worker with Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, this is true. Spot on, John Hudson. So if you want to come in the chat, well, if you want to come on the backstage, and we'll just shoot the crap basically for an hour and talk about anything you want to talk about, that's fine. If you want to, just watch the show, that's great too. So that's at 10 o'clock. I'm going to show, and thank you for patrons. Thank you, patrons and YouTube members. When you do contribute, you just don't contribute to this channel. You also help, and me being in this space, but you also help me being on my blogging space. There are people who have become patrons in my blogging space, but that also helps me here too, as well as my advocacy work and me being an activist too. So thank you, everyone. Why, thank you, Scott Duke. Thank you. Yeah, and so B, I'll probably see you on Friday night on your live stream. So let's do the thank you video, and then I'll see you guys, or whoever's here, I'll see you at 10 o'clock, right?